Patients and caregivers are fighting back against forced mail order pharmacy by sharing their stories of how forced mail order pharmacy is risking their lives. Here's Sarah's story. It's important to know that pharmacy benefits managers such as CVS, Caremark, OptumRx, and Express Scripts oversee the insurer's pharmacy benefits. Today, they're often restricting patients to their own retail or mail order pharmacy, or they're reimbursing community pharmacists so low that many are facing closure. Interviewing Sarah. Sarah had an issue with mail order pharmacy, and we're just going to kind of discuss her issues. We're doing this to try to raise awareness because right now there are many people who are being forced to mail order pharmacy. And every day I share stories of patients who are going days without life-saving medications. They've lost access to their trusted pharmacist, and our pharmacies are closing at a rapid pace. If we do not save our trusted pharmacies, people's lives will continue to be risked. So I appreciate you, Sarah, for allowing us to have this discussion today and for sharing your story, because people know my story and we share stories that people have posted about. But I think when people really put a face to the person and they see who we are and that we're normal everyday people, but our lives are being risked by these services, then hopefully they'll be compelled to act and to join us in this fight to just ensure that everybody has safe access to their medications from the hands of their trusted pharmacist. So you had an issue with mail order pharmacy. It sounded like for a while you were going to a pharmacist that you had known. How long did you know the pharmacy there or go to the pharmacy there?
I've been going to Sullivan's Pharmacy pretty much my entire life. I've grown up in Carlinville. Actually, the pharmacist is a friend, and he's actually my next door neighbor.
Wow.
I teach preschool. His daughter was in my class this year.
Oh, great.
They know me. They care about me. So long time.
Oh, well, that's great. And do you have other family members that also, or friends that use that same pharmacy?
Oh yeah, all of my family and a lot of people that I know
That's
go
great.
there. And the people that work there, I'm friends with and know very well too.
Yeah. And that's important. I feel like it's important that people develop those relationships with their pharmacist. And whenever they get to know you, I just feel like, if they know your family too, they may know some family history. They may know the complex needs of that community directly. There are many benefits to our trusted pharmacist, our community pharmacist. So you had been going there for a while, and then tell me what happened. How did you find out that you were going to be having to get your medications from mail order?
Right. So I found out early May that I had gestational diabetes, and I started getting my scripts, my insulin and everything there. And I was able to fill my Novolog twice with a $5 copay and all of the supplies that I needed, my test strips and the lancing devices, everything coming back $5 copays. And then I got a letter about a week ago saying you can save money by switching to mail order or picking it up at a CVS pharmacy. I wasn't under the impression that I had to, just that it was an option to save money. It was Monday evening. I was getting low on my Novolog. I went to fill it, and Owen called me and said, so on Monday evening, Owen called me and said, my copay came back $400 for my Novolog. He said, you need to call your insurance and see what's up. So, but it was late Monday evening. I figured there was, no one to call. I'd wait till Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning, I called CVS Caremark, and they said, you have to pay 50-50 of your script, the cost, if you continue to fill it at your local pharmacy, or you can get mail order or pick it up at CVS. And I said, well, I'm on my last pin, and the closest CVS is about 45 minutes away. And she guaranteed me that it would be overnighted You know, I was concerned about it being refrigerated, and she said, we've got special packages. I was like, okay, well, I don't want to pay a $400 copay, so I guess that's my only option. And then Wednesday it didn't come, and then Thursday didn't come, and then and then Friday today it still hadn't come, so I had to drive over to a CVS to pick it up.
And that's sad. So you called in. So it was Monday again that you said
that I had received the high copay. Tuesday I called and they said they would mail order overnight.
Okay, so Tuesday was the overnight. So overnight didn't happen.
No.
Not even close.
No.
I just wonder, do you have any tracking on it? I mean, does it show that it's even out and on its way?
No, I never received anything saying like that it was being processed or that it wasn't going to be here. Yeah, I was just hoping that, it would come because they said it would be overnighted.
Bless your heart. That's a lot to go through, especially, and we forgot to mention a very important part of this. So if you don't mind, is it okay if we tell everyone about, right now you're pregnant and why this medication is important?
Right. So I have gestational diabetes, and, it's all been very new to me. Previously, I haven't been on any regular meds or had to deal with insurance issues at all. So this has all just been a new experience for me. And, so then they called me and did the mail order. I wasn't very happy about it because I want to support my local pharmacy. But I thought, I'm only on this for 2 more months.
Yeah.
I'll do the mail order, and then in the future, hopefully, things will have changed if I were ever to be on a long-term med. But as of today, I needed the medication. I really can't eat my meals without it. No. So I woke up this morning, couldn't eat my breakfast. I'm not supposed to skip meals because I'm on a really strict diet. It's not just me that I'm concerned about, it's the baby. And so I was getting very upset, just the thought of, I need this not just for me, but for the baby as well.
Yes, so important. I mean, you have to be able to eat. What happens, if your insulin gets too high? What could possibly happen to you or the baby? Is there a risk, obviously, or else you wouldn't be on the medication?
Yeah, so there's just a lot of developmental risks with the baby if I don't keep my blood sugars under control. Early delivery, the baby's too big, because that baby takes on that extra blood sugar as well when my blood sugar gets high.
Wow. Yes, I can see why it's so important. And sadly, we know how important it is. And one of the things that really upsets me about this as I advocate for patients, I am seeing that when they delay medications like this for days, when patients are going days without their medications, whenever they're just shipped in a bag, even with insulin and ice packs. I mean, I've talked to patients that's received their insulin frozen and ended up at the doctor's office realizing that their insulin is no longer effective. So even with ice packs and this other protection that they're saying that they're using, it's not always enough. And there are limits to how long those medications could be exposed to those temperatures. So that's one of my advocacy points, but that's where I started. And I quickly realized that what I was getting into was much larger than temperatures, because we know that the forcing a mail order pharmacy for patients with any kind of chronic conditions or whose lives really do rely on medications, it's usually not what's in the best interest of patients. The reason why this is being pushed is because of profits. It's as they once I started, I realized that they're reimbursing our pharmacists extremely low. And they're reimbursing themselves a lot more. The PBMs are taking a major cut. And then whenever they're confronted about that, they're pointing fingers at the insurance companies or the employer. They take no responsibility for their own involvement. And there's nobody's tracking this. Nobody's holding them accountable for every day that a life is risked. This morning, you not being able to eat, someone should be accountable for that. And luckily for you, it sounds like you were able to go through the process today to get your medications and drive 45 minutes away. How far away is Sullivan's?
Oh, it's right across town.
Yeah,
I just swing by there when I'm out running errands, and I feel comfortable going in there just, anytime, stopping in, asking questions, and, they just take care of me.
Yeah, that's why it's so important that we keep them around, because another issue that I had is communicating with their pharmacy and trying to get issues fixed is a lot more difficult when you're dealing with a large corporation versus a small business, or in our case it's a hospital pharmacy that we work with.
Yeah. When I was on the phone with CVS Caremark getting the mail order set up, I was concerned about the insulin, staying refrigerated. And I thought, well, what if I'm not home and it sits out on my front patio in the hot sun all day? But she assured me that, it would be fine. And then what else? Oh, yeah. And then this morning when it wasn't here, I had to, call CVS. I had to call, I had to then call the CVS pharmacy to make sure that they got it. And then when I drove all the way there, it wasn't ready, I had to wait another 30 minutes. And I just thought, like, what if I didn't have a vehicle? What if I had to work today? Like, fortunately, I'm a teacher and I'm on summer break and I have a vehicle. So I was able to make the trip, but I know there's a lot of people out there that if, they wouldn't have been able to do that today.
Right. I know. I agree. That's one of the things I just started a nonprofit, and I plan on, I hope in time that we'll be able to gather the funds to somehow try to help these patients who don't have the time to fight, but they need their medications today.
Right.
Sometimes it's like they have to choose, okay, am I going to fight for my medication? Or am I going to lose my, am I going to keep my job? Which one is it going to be? And patients should not have to be going through that. At the same time, this morning, there's another story I'm hoping that I will be able to capture next week of someone who they're trying to get medications for their child, and the child's medication is supposed to be liquid. Well, they keep denying the medication because they want it in pill form, but the child is 13 months old. The child cannot, take a pill, and the nurse is continuing to submit these pills, and they continually are getting denied. And it's just, some of this is common sense, and I guarantee you, if they were able to access a trusted pharmacist in their coverage, this issue would get resolved a lot faster. But the issue is something called pharmacy benefits manager. And a lot of people are confused about what is a pharmacy benefits manager and what do they do. How did you find out about what a pharmacy benefits manager is, or is this new to you too?
It's fairly new to me. I've talked with our local pharmacist, and he's really an advocate fighting against it because he's in risk of losing his business. So I've been trying to kind of follow his story and try to, keep updated on what's going on. He's meeting with our senators and everything. And so I personally hadn't really been affected by it because I have been blessed with good health and haven't had to use my insurance much. But now that I have gestational diabetes and, this issue came up this week, and I thought, I have to speak out, because even though this is only a short-term thing for me, it needs to change in the future for other people and for people, me possibly in the future, or my family, because you shouldn't have to deal with this. Like, you should be able to go where you want to pick up your prescriptions.
Yeah, and safely. I mean, without the risk of delaying medications. If you would have been able to get your medications from Sullivan's, how long after you handed them that script would you have been able to pick up your medications? Do you know?
Oh, probably within 15 minutes.
Yeah. So instead of 15 minutes, and this is what the nurses are telling me too, that, you know, they're having to fight now for medications like the one medication where they're trying to say, hey, this child has to have a liquid form. And the nurse is spending hours on the phone trying to get, you know, common sense issue resolved. And the same, it shouldn't take days to get medications that lives depend on. This is not, some people will claim that mail order pharmacy is some kind of great new innovation, but this is not a risk-free innovation. This is a very dangerous innovation whenever it's forced upon people. And right now we have a lot of news articles coming up about the CVS Aetna merger. If they're allowed to merge and they get by with doing this to our trusted pharmacists, what do you think is going to happen, you know, to our physicians? You know, I'm so worried they're going to do the same thing to our physicians and force us to their minute clinics, you know, this instead of seeing our trusted physicians. You know, it's like we need access. We need safe access, and patients need to be prioritized. These companies are making billions of dollars. There's no reason why it's taking days for a woman whose life depends on insulin, for her child's life who depends on insulin, to have to wait when she could get that medication in 15 minutes safely without any risk. So,
Right.
and if they're going to force us to it, you know, they need more accountability. You know, we need something that says, okay, if you do not get this patient their medications on time, you are going to be fined this much for every single day. And they need to stop forcing it. They need to start prioritizing us. So that's what I advocate for every single day.
When I called CVS Caremark this morning about getting my insulin, I was hoping that they would say, okay, we're going to make this exception this one time, our mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And because I said, can I just get one pen filled here locally, and then, then I'll get the rest mail ordered. I just need this one pen this morning,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, well, you can only get it if you pay that $386 copay. And I said, well, that's ridiculous. When you say you can mail order it at CVS for free, you've paid for it the past 2 months at $5. What's one more fill at my retail?
Yeah.
And they said, well, that's not your plan. And I'm just frustrated because I personally did not pick the plan. It's my husband's employer.
Yeah.
And so if we could switch, we would, but that's just not an option. That's what our, his employer provides.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you brought that up, because that is a very important topic, because that's one of the things that the CEOs of these companies and a lot of corporate executives who are like wanting us to be forced to mail order pharmacy, that's their thing. Well, if you don't like it, you could just change your plan. He could go to work somewhere else. That's why I was told by the U.S. Department of Labor. They told me, they're like, well, if your husband doesn't like his plan, then he could just go to work for some other company that's not doing this. And I'm like, here's a good thing about my background. I was a health insurance agent before I started my advocacy. So I didn't realize the number of people who are being forced to mail order. But now that I know, and you look through these plans, there's no escaping it. You're not going to be able to just switch plans and get out of being forced to mail order, because we have an oligopoly. When we talk about a PBM, so the PBMs are CVS Caremark, Optum Rx, Express Scripts. Those are the big three. They are not the only ones that are forcing to mail order, but they own 80% of the market. And our employers even have limited options on being able to select plans that are not including mail order. And I feel like at this point PBMs cannot act without being regulated any longer. Every single day that they're able to force patients to mail order, that they're able to reimburse our pharmacists so low that they're ending up in the red, every day they're allowed to do that, they are risking people's lives. And the patients, we're not going to tolerate it anymore. We're not going to allow them to risk our lives. We're not going to allow them to risk our children's lives. We're not going to allow them to risk our neighbors' lives. We're not going to allow them to hurt our independent pharmacists and the pharmacists that have earned our business and actually provide patient care, not just a bottle of meds or, it's those pill bottles. They are not just medicines. I keep saying this, those pill bottles, your insulin is your life. Your insulin is your child's life. And we deserve to have access of our medications in that way. And our lives be prioritized. So I hope by sharing your story, I really hope that others will see why this fight is so important and why we need other people to step up and just do more. Sharing your story is, if that's all you can do, you've done a whole lot, but as our pharmacists are fighting for us and as our healthcare professionals are fighting for us, the patients really need to rally together. We need to go behind them. We need to support them. We need to be not behind them. We need to be right beside them all the way. So that's my plan.
Yeah. I will say that, I go to Sullivan's for my scripts, but they do so much more for me than that. Even if it's not prescription related, if I just have like an over-the-counter medication that, especially with being pregnant, there's certain things that I can and cannot take. They help me figure out, what's safe, what's not, and other supplies that aren't prescription related. If they don't have it, they're like, all right, well, we'll order it. It should be here tomorrow. They try to get the best products at the best price for me. Yeah. I feel like CVS, Walgreens, they're not, the bigger chains, they're not going to do that for me. They don't know me on a personal level. They don't care about me as much as my local pharmacy. And when I first got started with the insulin and the checking my blood sugar, they made sure I knew how to do it, showed me how everything works, made sure I had all the needed supplies. I wouldn't get that through mail order. No. I'm going to call, I'm going to sit on the phone through automated messages, enter my social security and birth date 20 times before I get to talk to somebody. I'm on hold forever. And, they just can't provide that personal care and support that I get at Sullivan's.
You're right. He had. But you had to turn the dial a certain way, and it was for an emergency seizure. As soon as we used it, we had to call the ambulance because giving too much of the medication or just a regular dose of the medication could cause him to go into respiratory distress. So knowing how to work that medication and seeing the pharmacist actually show me how to use it was important to me. And when you have a child who's on a lot of medications, it's important, the milliliters that everything's measured in, it's just nice to have that extra eye on you just to make sure you're not overdosing or underdosing, and asking if they do need something over the counter, is this the right dosage for them? And yeah, whenever you're forced to mail order, a lot of times people are having to use multiple pharmacies. So when you think about, some people are just forced to the specialty mail order for certain medications. And then after that, like you had mentioned, the supplements that you might want to know, like, does this interact? You're right there. You get everything from one place. All your medications, he can just look up at the same time as you're ordering your medications. And he knows your history. He knows you personally. So if we lose our pharmacists, we're going to lose all of that. all of that is gone. And it's gone for our elderly, our patients with chronic conditions, our patients with learning disabilities. Is crucial. Their services that they provide are crucial to patients' lives. You know, this isn't, to me, there's, what's being done is it's an injustice. The amount of people that your scenario is happening to today is much greater than just you. I know it is. You know, I see the people who are posting on social media, but I know that the number of people that's actually having to just in your case with the insulin today, I guarantee it's probably in the hundreds. There's probably hundreds of people that haven't received their medic. It's just not reported. And there's no consequences. You know, they can do this, they can risk people's lives, and there's absolutely no consequences. The only ones that facing consequences, you know, is us. So.
Right. Well, and then also I had to get a 90-day supply.
Oh yes, thank you.
August, I'm not going to need it. So I have an extra month of this insulin. I personally didn't have to pay for it. I had no copay for it, but I know I'm paying for it in some way, you know.
Yes, good. You know, it's not good. I mean, you realize that
is paying, you know, his employer is paying for it, or somebody out there is paying for that wasted insulin. And I've been to drug take back days where people bring in unused prescription medications, you know, that they need to get rid of. And it was literally thousands of dollars worth of medications that people got through mail order and never used.
Wow.
And somebody is paying for this. It may not be those patients directly, but, you know, somewhere down the line, we are all paying for that. And there's got to be a better system.
Oh, yeah.
It's wasted medication. Money is being wasted somewhere, and we're all paying for it in some way.
You're right. We are. Yeah. And you said the employer. I mean, in fact, I mean, I believe that the employer is going to say, well, you know, we'll just pass that cost on to the employees. You know, I guarantee you it's more of us that's paying for that. And when it's Medicaid and Medicare, you know, that's our tax dollars.
Yeah.
And I just think about all the people right now who are struggling to afford insulin. And I think that if we could bring in that money and put it, you know, to those patients that are having a hard time paying for drugs, you know, that would help. Did you happen to check the out-of-pocket price for that medication?
Yeah. Well, no, that I didn't check the cost of it without my insurance, but when he ran it through, it was $386 copay, and they had told me on the phone that I would be paying 50%. So I just assumed, you know, probably close to $800 for out of pocket if I'm paying 50%.
Wow.
Something later, like, oh, I
probably will. Well, I think that you're a hero for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, what'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said no problem. Yeah.
All right.
You know, I really wanted to speak out because I'm hoping this won't be an issue for me in the past, that baby will come and I'll have good health and the diabetes, you know, will go away. But I know that this is an issue right now with pharmacy. And so I thought, you know, I'm not one to post my personal matters on Facebook. You know, I'm a pretty personal, private person, but I thought, you know, there's no way to bring about any changes if you don't speak out and, you know, spread awareness of what's going on. So, you know, I kind of went out of my comfort zone to kind of share my story, and hopefully, you know, even if it's just a little bit of knowledge and awareness spread by doing this, I hope that some changes will be made for the future for other people. So.
I hope so with you. I'll do everything I can every day for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Make sure that happens. So.
Thank you to you for doing this as well.
You're welcome. I can't do it without our supporters and people sharing their stories and speaking out. And then the next thing, whenever our pharmacists are fighting for us or just saying, hey, I need your support, call this governor, call this legislator, we just need to do what we can to encourage others to do it. If sharing your story and doing that is all you can do, that's a lot. That's a great start. I appreciate you so much. Thank you. And I hope the best to you in your pregnancy, and let me know if you have any issues in the future. I hope I hope all goes well.
All right. Thank you.
Patients and caregivers feel left to fend for themselves against billionaire corporations, as those who are supposed to protect us, such as regulators, legislators, insurance companies, pharmacy benefits managers, turn a blind eye to us. We need your help. The best way that you can help resolve this issue is by gathering 2 to 3 people and write your legislators and let them know that our pharmacist should be included in our coverage. Mail order pharmacy could be an option, but should never be forced. Additionally, you may also visit our website at www.uniteforsafemedications.com and sign the change.org petitions and share your story. I really appreciate all of your help in getting these issues resolved. Thank you for your support, and I hope that you have a great day.